Hey folks, I know it's been a while since I've posted anything, so I figured I would give you an update on what I've been working on and why I haven't really been posting new content. What you're looking at here is my demo page for my new content management system. Yeah, it looks pretty freaking awesome right now, but that's okay. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that are that's taken me a while to kind of think the whole process through and get things working correctly. When I built this, I've used WordPress, Joomla, I've done some Drupal development in the past, and then I've used a couple of other content management systems, but I'm not really happy with the way that they really confine you to a particular page type when you're building a new page. So you can either add content, or you can add a form, or you can add a slideshow, and making it work so that way all three are available on the same page was really difficult. So I tried to rethink the way that I'm building my system, and what I came up with was building a page wrapper, and the page wrapper is essentially going to have the page title, so like updated by Nick, so that's going to be the page title. And again, I may change that, I'm not positive, but it's going to handle all the metadata. So the metadata is going to be associated with the page, and then beyond that, it's going to load content nodes within the page. Each of these lines is a content node. So right now I'm just doing content type nodes rather than a slideshow or a form or anything along those lines, but eventually I do want to get those types of things built into the system. And then I do want to build like a form creator, so that way you can drag and drop things in the way that you need to, and building out your page will be as simple as dragging in a content node so you can get some content on the page, and then let's say you want a contact form below that, you just drag in your content node and it'll be as easy as doing that. So that is the whole thought process behind this. So you just drag and drop pieces into the content of the page and it'll set it up for you, so you have your form and all that stuff. Eventually I do want to build things into the system so that way you can have snippets or widgets or whatever you want to call them on the side of the page, so that way additional information can be displayed, whether it's a download button for a particular form or a document or something like that, or if you have a login form that you want to place there. Having those additional pieces around the side, I haven't quite thought that far into it, but that is something I definitely want to do. So let's get into the way that this page works. I'm going to look at the code view really quick. I'm going to open up the head section and keywords, description, all that stuff. What I did, I'll explain the CSS thing in a second. But keywords, description, title, those are all generated by the metadata that's stored in the database for this particular page, which I'll show you how that's pulled up in a second. But I was pretty happy with the way that I did this PHP CSS loader page. I'll just pull that up really quick because I thought it was pretty cool. I've seen this before, so it's definitely not a new thing, but for those people who are interested in looking at something like this, it may be worth doing this on your site. So what I did was I created a new page that basically strips out all the extra information in your content. And I forget what the original developer of this was, and I wish I had it on hand so that way I could tell you, because I definitely want to give him credit for that. But basically it's storing this information for a set amount of time, so it's creating a cache in your browser, removing any kind of space, any kind of new lines, anything like that, so it's just a compressed version of your code. And then I'm using an output buffer start, getting the information from that file, compressing it using this compress function that I created, which is down here somewhere. Anyways, and then it spits it out to the screen. So it just compresses everything, gets rid of all the extra information, and it gets all of your CSS files, so it compiles them into one, which makes loading the page quite a bit quicker. And it's one of the things that Google recommends, so it just makes it a little bit quicker. I may do a tutorial on this in a little while. Maybe I'll do it tonight, I'm not sure, so that way you guys can have this on hand. But we'll jump into the actual code, what I wanted to show you. the way that Zen framework works is you can, if I go over to my code view on the side here on my structure, you have your application, which is basically the heart of your application, basically. You have your configuration, which is what sets up your Zen framework environment, gets your database connections all set up, all that stuff. Modules is really where your individual pieces that you build out is available. So I have page, which is one of my modules, and that's really where all the magic happens. I have node, which I'll get to that down the road. Default is just, I just needed a default module there. I could have used page if I wanted to. But the first thing that your Zen framework looks at is your controller, and this stuff is all pulled up based on the URL that you use. I won't get into that, but just understand that first thing it looks at is your controller. So your controller is what controls the flow of your application. Those of you who don't know about Model View Controller, do research into the design pattern, because that's what the large-scale frameworks use. So just definitely look into that. And Zen Framework loads up this init function by default. So it's just going to call this whenever the application is getting going and is doing its initialization process. So page model and metadata model are going to be set up and given the scope of this index controller. I'm going to skip over the index action right to the open action, because this is the one that I was looking at before. I'm getting the ID, so it's getting the request object, and it's getting the parameter ID from the query string, which I'll show you here. I'll explain how this URL structure works. It's looking at the module that you're looking at, or one of the modules that you're targeting, the controller that you want to use, which is index for me, the action that you're using, which is open, and then everything after that is a key value pair for parameters. So this is my ID is my key and 1 is my value, and that's how Zen handles basically query string without the query string. So I get the ID and I pass that over to my page model, which I'm going to pull up here. It's getting a page, or it's calling the get page method on the page model, and that's passing back a page object. I wanted to make this as transparent as possible, so I didn't want the end user, the developer, to have to go through a whole process to get all the information for the particular page. Since a page is a page, it doesn't matter whether it's a form or anything else. I definitely wanted it to be a one-stop shop. Everything's going to be there for you. So if I go into page model here, I get this get page function, which passes in the ID that it's looking for, and without getting into the way the Zen framework works too much, it's getting the particular row from the database, and that row is assigned a class, which you do in the beginning of this model here, row class, and it creates an object of that type, CMS content page item, which has get metadata and get nodes as functions, which I'm going to pull up now. So CMS content page item, you have your metadata, all that stuff is already set up, your nodes, which is what is going to build the actual content of the page. So get metadata. I'm not going to go too far into this one. It's just basically getting another object. So find dependent row sets. Zen handles relational databases in a really unique way. So it knows based on mapping that you set up, it'll use that information and it'll grab the information out of the dependent sets and pull it in. So meta rows, and that's going to have all your metadata, like your meta description, title, keywords, all that stuff. And then the nodes is really what I wanted to show you. The nodes piece is where all the magic happens. It does the same thing. It finds all the dependent row sets of the nodes, pulls that in, it parses the XML data that I have in the database, which I don't think I've gone through the database at all yet, which I'll do that in a second. And then it creates a new node of type content, CMS content node, which this repeating is intentional. It's based on the folder structure. But this is, I wanted to make it as how do I want to put this, as consistent as possible. So I can, as long as it follows this, it's a type of node, then it'll be fine. The namespace is the type that it wants to get, and then the parameters or the parameters get passed in and set up the information for the particular node. So node get data gets all the information out of the database, and then it gets sent back to be processed. If I go back into, let's see, nodes here, which is our view helper, which I haven't gotten to that point yet. So going back to page, that gets sent back to the index controller, and now there's a step that happens that isn't available here, but it's a piece inside the framework that gets called, which is called a view helper, and the view helper takes the nodes information, which is available on the page. I'll jump over to that code now, and it processes it. Out of the box, it's just going to be an object of data. There's not going to be any kind of output rendering that's going to happen. So you're going to have to take that information and process it. So my nodes are available in the view page nodes object, which I'm setting in my index controller here. And then for each of those nodes, it gets the information from the database, sets that as a view variable, and this is a really bad way of handling it, but that's the only way I could think of to get the information available inside the template when it renders. So that's how I handled that. I passed the information up to the view, set the script path, so now it's looking in the application path, which is this folder here inside my folder structure. It's at the base of my application. So application, it looks for nodes, the node get namespace, which is content. So this basically is the type of object that it's going to be, whether it's content, form, etc. And then lastly, it pulls the node get template information out of the XML data, and then it renders the correct template here. So, and then it builds a string of all the node partials or the node pieces, and then that becomes the content of the page. So it is a kind of a unique way of doing things, and hopefully it wasn't too confusing when I explained it. But now I'm going to jump over to this template piece, and you can kind of see basically how easy it would be to set up a particular page of a certain type. So really all that I'm doing here is I'm just echoing out the content that's put back. If I wanted to wrap it into, let's say, an H4 tag, which I have in this test page here, I could do that, and it's just going to wrap everything that particular node puts out in an H4 tag. And this, especially content, it's all handled through a WYSIWYG editor. It's handled through TinyMCE, so you can have a table, all that stuff. It's going to come up. So we'll close out of that. I'm going to jump over to the database since I don't think I covered that yet. Let's see. So we'll start with pages, and the name and the content. I'm going to get rid of this. This was basically just my first round of edits. All you need to know is the ID here. I'm going to take name, content. Well, I'll take content out, and I believe that's it. That's the only piece that needs to come out. And then it goes to nodes. So inside nodes, you have your namespace, which is your type of node that you want. And then your parameters are really what sets up the rest of the information. So content ID is basically the ID in the content table to pull up. So here we have 1, and the next one is 2. And then you have the particular template type that you're going to be rendering. So first one is index, the next one is test, and that was just to show you the different types of templates to render. So now we can jump over to the content table, and here we have our content which is being rendered out. And really that's all that it is. If you eventually want to do relational databases, whether you have, I don't know, days and events. So you have, for each day you have multiple events. Then you can create the relational database that way, and everything should work together seamlessly. So hopefully I'll get some documentation on how to make this work correctly and get you guys up and running. And hopefully in the next couple weeks or so, I can get some a better design page here with some actual menus and stuff. I do have a user system in place now, so if I go to login, whoops, let's see, login. There we go. And of course, I'm not going to be able to type in. So I have your password was incorrect, and I can't even remember what my login was, to be honest. So I'm not going to go that far. But it'll show you that it was incorrect, and then if it is correct, it'll send you to the home page. So that is my application so far. Hopefully this wasn't boring as hell, and hopefully you guys learned a couple things and see the power behind Zen Framework. So if you guys are interested in looking into some more complex PHP coding, definitely take a look at Zen Framework. It's definitely the best approach to object-oriented framework that I've seen so far. Everything's extendable, and apparently it's too late for me. I got to go to bed. But everything's extendable, and it's definitely worth a look. So if you guys want to get started with that, definitely go check out some of their tutorials and give their framework a download. If you're really serious about developing, I would recommend downloading Zen Server Community Edition, which is I'm running on a Linux box right now. And do your development on that. It comes prepackaged with Zen Framework and a couple of other things, debugging and all that stuff, so it's definitely helpful. Let me know what you think. If you guys think it's a good idea that I'm doing it this way, if you're completely confused by what I said or anything that I've done, send me an email. Let me know, and I'll be happy to explain things a little bit further.